War Eagle, War Rapport family, I am your host, C Dub. It took overtime, but Auburn managed to defeat Missouri by the score of 17-14. We discussed that and more, as well as what we see in other games yesterday on the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Rapport Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be real, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. War Eagle. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by show sponsor Athletic Architects. Please be sure to visit them at buildthehouse.com. If you are a student athlete, related to a student athlete, or looking to start your own LLC, they can get you started. Shouts out to them for being a supporter of the War Rapport, as well as our latest Weekend Tailgate. Also, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us, watching live or on replay. However you do it, if you have social media, do us a favor and share this live. Use the hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Help people to find our content, get in on the discussion, help us grow our community. Also, smash the like button while you're watching. And if you're new to our channel, please hit subscribe. Ike has information on how you can support us, whether it be free or monetarily. Ike, take it away, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, man, we want you guys to support the War Rapport in whatever way you see fit. The free way to do it is just to subscribe to the channel, right? Subscribe to the channel so you can know when we're going to go live. And we usually restrict the live chat to just subscribers. So if you want to come on board with all of the things that we got going on, you can just subscribe. However, if you want to get all the goodies, including things like watch the film and being able to subscribe or chat on the live stream during the post game and halftime show, then you got to come on board as a member. It's going to take you $5.99 to get to the patron level to get everything, but there is a a supporter level as well. So make sure you guys are locked in with all of the things that we are doing in regards to membership, including being able to get free tickets to games. So we've already given away the tickets to this first leg of games. I think we might get a couple of more giveaways that we've got coming up for LSU, but we'll start kicking it back up for the next home game in a little bit. But maybe you're a member and you want to gift a membership to someone else. You can do that too, man. Right there in the live stream, there's a little button that you can hit that lets you gift the memberships right there below where you're chatting. If you want to gift a membership, it lets you pick how many memberships you want to do. And then it just randomly assigns those to other people who are active in the War Rapport community but haven't taken that leap to membership. You can go ahead and pay their first month for them, and then it's on them whether or not they want to renew that. For this stream and every stream, whether you are, subscriber, member, whatever, we give away stuff. We are going to be giving away a War Rapport mug today, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comments to be able to be a part of that giveaway today. So if you want to be able to be a part of that, make sure you are hashtagging Get Your Weight Up in the comments. We'll do that drawing right around the 1 hour mark of the program. And that's it. I ain't gonna talk about nothing else right now. We'll get into some more stuff later.
Gentlemen, it wasn't the prettiest game, but Auburn escapes September with a 3-1 record. They did so by defeating Missouri by a score of 17-14 in overtime. Ike, you were there covering the game. We'll definitely get some of your thoughts, but let's talk about who you guys voted as player of the game. The fans have spoken. The player of the game is as follows. Mr. Derek Hall had 6 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 interception against Missouri. Great game by him. It was kind of a no-brainer that Derek Hall won this, but you guys' thoughts on Derek Hall's performance? Listen, Auburn got an interception yesterday.
Yeah,
we finally and we won the turnover battle. Actually had 2 turnovers against Missouri, so those are definitely some things to take away. Our thoughts on Derek Hall's performance. I'll start with you, Ike. You were up at the game watching covering the game. Your thoughts on his performance?
You know what? Derek Hall is a player that has a ton of pride and wants to put his mark not just on every game he plays, which is super important, but he wants to leave his mark on Auburn University, on the record books. He is out there hustling. You've seen him this entire season. A play will have him, where it'll get past the line of scrimmage to the second level, and he's going to chase it down. He is hunting for the ball every single game, and that was it definitely apparent today in yesterday's game. He was out there trying to make sure he could make an impact on the game. He was all over the field. You love the effort and the energy that Derek Hall brings, and the leadership that he brings to that defensive line. There are reports coming out. Derek Hall basically said, "I'm not going to let us lose this game." Like, that was statements that he was making. He's like, "I'm not going to let us lose." And so he was just going to do everything that he could possibly do to make that happen. This is a deserved player of the game for him. Johnny on the spot with the interception, couple of tackles for loss, couple of sacks. Derek Hall bringing the effort the entire game. I loved it.
Did we score off that interception?
Yes.
I think we did.
That was the second.
We got 14. That's when we got us. Yeah, for sure. B. Will, you said you had us at 3, getting 3 tackles for loss. I think you said that, right? We made a prediction. You said at least 3. We said at least 3. Derek got them all by himself. So your thoughts on his performance yesterday?
That's what we were waiting for from him and the rest of this defensive line. We had seen it in flashes. Echo Leota had some good play in the first couple of games, but we had not seen the entire line dominate like they had at times last year. So it's good to know that they've started to round back into form. I'm saying started because I want to see this continue. I want to see this continue when it's not a Missouri line that is almost as bad as our line is. I want to see it against LSU, who isn't a great team. I want them to continue this. And I thought it was a matter of motivation, maybe focus, because we knew they had it in them. And so it's good to see it. It's good to have seen it. All those guys played really well yesterday, and I'm just glad that we got all those. But definitely Derek Hall, you could tell he was going to will us to it, and he did. Yeah, he absolutely did. So it's good that we got a guy like that, a senior like that, a leader like that on the line who showed up and when we definitely needed him.
Mike G, thoughts about Derek Hall as well as the defense? The defense had a pretty good day yesterday for the most part. Held in the 312 total yards, 14 points. 2 turnovers. Your thoughts overall with the performance as well as the player of the game, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Derek Hall is a dog, and Auburn will absolutely need him the rest of the season. They're going to need his leadership, his effort, his hustle. Ultimately, I mean, I thought he was the easy choice, obviously, for this. But hopefully we see more standout performances against better competition. So this wasn't a good team we played. And we did get the 1 turnover. So it was cool to see that 1 turnover. I guess it's really hard to get. I mean, listen, kudos to Derek. He's interviewed with us. We appreciate his effort and his hustle. Holding Missouri to 312 yards should feel like an accomplishment, I guess. It's just, man, this was, picking a player of the game in this was tough. I mean, I know they went with Derek Hall, but, under the circumstances, I really feel like Robbie Ashford could have been the player of the game here. I don't think Auburn wins without his performance. This was just really, this was a sobering on all sides. But I will say this, the defense did help Auburn win time of possession in this game, which maybe saved us. I was shocked to see that number after the game. So it was good that they won in some areas, lost in almost every other category, but somehow won on the scoreboard. So good for Derek. Him and Robbie, essentially, I think were the keys to this game for Auburn.
James Jordan, appreciate the super chat. He says, why can we not throw more quickly developing seams and slants to mitigate this O-line play? King, Brown, and Moore have proven they can get it on one-on-one matchups. Thoughts on this, gentlemen?
I think this is the question everybody has about adapting this offense, right? Is there a quick strike version of this that covers your line a little better? But it's hard to run that again, from 12 personnel with tight ends who aren't getting separation and only 2 receivers on the field. To run this, I think you have to spread them out and get more receivers on the field.
Yeah, you can run it in 12 personnel. You just have to be a little bit more creative, like because we ran versions of this last year with Bo Nix. They just have to be more inventive in the ways in which they're scheming it and calling it. I think the biggest issue, and to the question specifically, why can't we do it? I don't know the answer as to why we can't. I don't see a feasible explanation as to we cannot. Why haven't we? That's the better question for me. So again, not saying that your question is bad, James. I'm saying the better question is, can we? Sure. Why aren't we? I have no clue.
Yeah. Why won't they?
Yeah.
Why won't they do this? It seems pretty obvious that this needs to happen, at least to some degree.
Pro Football Focus, gentlemen, graded our O-line in terms of the play. Pass pro, that actually was pretty generous if you go check it out. Run blocking, not so much. And one of the things going into this game that we talked about was get the ball to Tank, but we saw them try to do that. And Tank wasn't really productive. He got some carries, he got touches, but wasn't able to do much, especially with the attempts to run up the middle. Do we need to see something different given the strength that this O-line? Do we need to start throwing to set up the run? Do we need to change how we approach this offense in terms of what this offensive line can do? Because it doesn't seem like running up the middle is the way to do it.
So I don't see, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with us being persistent with the run game. I don't. I have a problem with kind of the very predictable nature in which we're going to run the ball on first down. First down, and a lot of the run calls are very similar in nature. I don't personally, and I said this before, like Robbie Ashford under center, unless they're doing it to set up, which they did like way later in the game, set up a fake handoff bootleg, and then they threw it underneath to the tight end or to a wide receiver. So I just don't think that we're counterpunching very effectively with how we run the ball. So sometimes you just kind of have to run it, right? But I just think that we need to be a little more creative in the ways that we're utilizing our assets. And it just does not seem as if we're committed to having any sort of creativity or any liberty around how we're going to do it. It was just like, nope, we're just going to keep doing this. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. And it's like, that's not working. We might want to change that up. Nope, we're going to run it again. You guys are going to figure it out. Okay. I don't know. I would like to see it. And I'm not saying gimmicks, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be gimmicky, but I just think it needs to be a little bit more creative in the way that we structure our runs that help us be able to counter off of those more effectively, where it looks like the same play, but we're doing something slightly different to throw the defense off. And I didn't see enough of that.
Comment here from Kenji Jones. He says Keontae Scott and DJ James are the best corners. Lockdown. Your thoughts on the corner play? Keontae, I believe, got his first start. I think DJ James is his second start. Missouri had what they called a dog on their end in the wide receiver and Burden, and he only got targeted twice. Didn't get any touches. Thoughts on how our cornerbacks played? And this was definitely a bright spot to me, but I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, these are the guys that I've been talking about. DJ, you didn't get my interception. We got the W, so I can't turn it into the DJ James fan account. But I appreciate all of the effort he did because they challenged our corners. They, meaning our defensive staff, challenged our corners to say, we're going to leave you on an island pretty much, and you're going to have to be out there and just figure it out, right? And they did a really good job. I mean, there was one bust by Keontae Scott on a slot route that ended up being a deep one, and then it was a great play by their receiver falling backwards that put him in opportunity for. But the DB was right there on him, right? Like there was, I can only recall that one time where we got beat deep and somebody wasn't in position. So absolutely kudos to those two young men for coming out and playing with a lot of tenacity. Keontae Scott is a difference maker in the punt game as well. Like he's just he's gonna I think at some point in time he's gonna break one just because he has the mentality that says I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna make a play. So I like what he does in run coverage. He's not perfect in that. Sometimes he takes bad angles and he gets out leveraged to the outside. But I think as he starts to understand the speed of the game and the different angles he needs to take to be able to get to these faster running backs or wide receiver sweeps, he'll get there. So I like what I see out of both of those guys.
So Mike G mentioned Robbie Ashford. Ashford went 12 of 18 for 127 yards. He also was the leading rusher in this game, 15 carries for 46 yards and a score. Thoughts on how he did in his first start? Mike, you kind of talked about it, but B. Will, kind of let me know what are your thoughts on how Robbie Ashford performed?
I mean, well, the plan was obviously to run constantly, whether it was Tank or Robbie or Jarquez. So I'm up and down on if that's the best way to use a guy who's clearly a run threat is to give the defense exactly how they're going to play him. If you see Robbie Ashford on the field, you see how little they've let him throw up to this point. I would have so much action playing off of the run game. I would have some different alignments for him and Tank and Jarquez, and just the personnel. It telegraphed what we were going to do. I get that sometimes you do things on purpose just to set up. Hey, how are they going to play this? Okay, so we know what to come back to. We know how to change this later. But I mean, to Ike's point with the run game, they didn't give the offense or Robbie really a chance to. Our plan didn't give them a chance to succeed. I don't think. Understanding what our offensive line is, like you said a minute ago, Caesar, maybe we were throwing so much early, and the reason they tabbed TJ Finley coming out of camp was, hey, we can't just hold up if we're just going to be a run team. So let's get the defense on their heels. Let's push them down the field a little bit. And it seems to have gotten us some fluid in the run game because coming into this game, we were actually middle of the pack in the SEC as far as run block grades. So we created that room seemingly by throwing the ball. If you're going to have Robbie Ashford in there, you can't make it as simple as, yeah, all he's going to do is run the ball. Let's go. I don't think that's the best way to use him. Now, if you want to say maybe the coaches are thinking, well, okay, he wasn't the best passer coming out of camp. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because if you're afraid to do it, the defense isn't stupid. Their defensive coordinator knows. They watch the tape. They know that you don't want to do it or you're scared to let them throw. So they're just going to crowd the line of scrimmage, and that's all that happens. And I don't think that we can win that type of game with that type of game plan anymore. We played the worst team in the conference outside of Vanderbilt. That's the worst team in the conference on our schedule. So sure, maybe we can get away with it there, but I don't think we can get away with it going forward. I don't think they gave him a great chance to succeed, although he did kind of break loose and have some really good plays. He does have a good connection with Corey Moore, and I was glad to see Corey Moore break out a little bit. I want them to let Robbie do more, to install different things that lets Robbie be less predictable. Let's the run game be less predictable because I don't see us being able to succeed going forward if that's all they're going to do.
To that point, B, and I'll pose this to you, Mike G. Is it reasonable at this point to expect much change with the offense? Because if we would have saw change, we would have saw it this month going into a brutal part of our schedule. Is it reasonable to suggest, even with different personnel, different situations coming up, that we can expect to see them tweak this offense to the skill set of whoever's a starting quarterback or whatever the defense is dictating?
I think that's going to determine Harson's legacy when this is all said and done at the end of the day. Is could you I mean, clearly Eric Kiesau wasn't a first choice at offensive coordinator, right? Like they went out and tried to hire a couple guys and they were looking and they landed on this, but he doesn't appear up to the task. If you ask me, if he's the one that's still calling the plays, the players are paying the price for it. And it's tough. It's tough on them. It's tough to see that this line is significantly worse than last year's line. I didn't think they could get worse, but without Brahms, this line is worse. It's much worse. It's worse in every way. It's worse in pass pro, run block, and communication. There's no part of this that's better than last year. So it's tougher on the quarterbacks this year because they got worse. And the play calling isn't covering any of it. It just seems like you're asking them to do something that they can't do, just expecting that magically it's going to click and they're going to do it. And I don't understand that strategy unless you're going to change the people. So O-line, I get, is one of those places where it's hard to make mass substitutions, but it can't get much worse. I saw Tuberville do it in 06 or 07 where he just changed everybody.
I hope it can't get much worse.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is tough. And I saw a comment here about Robbie panicking. Like, now that's not on tape, man. What's on tape is he had to move a lot to keep plays alive and for us to have a bunch of negative plays. So it's going to be difficult moving forward, but that's what I'm going to be looking for. Now, there may have been some feeling because we moved the ball against Penn State. And this is the fool's gold that you get sometimes when something is partly successful, is that, hey, we just didn't execute in the second half and all this. And I don't know. It just feels like the game starts off pretty decent offensively. And then once teams adjust to whatever it is we're doing, there's no readjustment. There's no plan after that. Where is the plan after? Like, this is the SEC, man. The coaches on the other side of the field, they got the same. You all got the same tape. Everybody's looking at the same tape. They're noting they've got analysts and they're noting your tendencies and they're noting your play calling tendencies. And if you go out there and you show the same thing every week, you have to have guys who can just bully and execute. And they don't have that right now. Feed tank is not a strategy for this team. It's not. I heard that a lot. Why? Tank only had 9 touches. Well, I mean, that's not really the answer for a team that can't block for him at all. He had 19 touches and he averaged 2 yards per carry. It didn't help. Yeah. It doesn't help. So I made a point about, not necessarily, it's not like just feeding him. It's about how they're feeding him. There was one during the game, Caesar, when we were watching it, I was like, this is going to be a run up the middle. And that's exactly what they did. And then it went for nothing. And it just felt like first down play calling was especially bad. It was really bad. And I don't know, man. So, Brian's point about letting Robbie throw the ball after that first drive, you'd have to mix it up. There's no way they were going to with this line, they were going to let Robbie Ashford just run all over them.
Right.
No SEC team is going to do that.
Right.
So you've got to do a good job mixing him in. But if you're, for a guy who needs to get into a flow passing in the game, although you scored on that first drive, his arm was cold going into the second drive.
Right.
You called no passes. You can't win this way, man. And we don't have the defense necessarily this year to hold on. So I don't know, man. This felt like a worse team than San Jose State. And they're playing up and down to the competition at points, right? The first half against Penn State was pretty decent. They moved the ball. They didn't get in the end zone, but they moved the ball. The defense made some plays. They had a couple busts. But, I just hope maybe – I thought last week would be the thing that said, hey, this is a bad plan. Let's rip this all up. It doesn't seem like that was it. Now I'm like, okay, you almost lost to Missouri. They literally fumbled you the game back. This has to be the thing, right? That says, okay, this is a bad plan. Let's rip this all up. It didn't look different to me, but I don't know. Harson makes points about what he sees, what they're seeing in the film, and I'm not sure. I get it. You have to game plan to what you think they're going to do, but at some point, the cat is out of the bag on you and what you're doing. And teams are going to just risk it and just say, hey, let's make Robbie Ashford beat us with his arm. Robbie's going to have to do it.
Yeah.
That's it. When they sell out, I just didn't feel like there were enough screens. And I don't know, man. This is going to be Harson. This is really to me is what's going to be his salvation or his undoing. Can you abandon this thing and go a different direction? And Kisau, I don't know, their relationship, it seems like they're reasonably close. But Tuberville was with Hugh Nall too. He still sat his ass down and went out and got somebody else. So
I did my biggest concern, Mike, is the guy who I think could have helped isn't on the staff. Harson tried to get him and Zach Hill, who actually was who the coordinator was, who worked with a guy who had dual threat capabilities. He's not on the staff, and matter of fact, he's damaged goods. This is why he's not at Auburn.
Right.
If you do move away from it, who's going to be implementing this? Who's going to implement this different offense that's going to be different from what we've seen? It makes sense, but if they've been practicing this all off season to now, how do you pivot that dramatically?
I think Brian Harson just needs to take over play calling duties.
Yeah, for
plain
sure.
and simple. Brian Harson needs to call plays, because here's in this. I talked to B. Will about this a lot this weekend, and I mean last couple of weeks. Play calling is different than game planning, right? You can have a solid game plan, but not understand the nuance of play to play, what play to call and what scenario, what personnel groupings you need to be able to do. You can have I don't doubt that this staff came in with a solid game plan, but on the day of the game, what play you call and what scenario, that's an art form.
Yeah.
And you have to some people are they have it. They are like, I don't know. They just have a different feel for when to call what plays and how they're setting up a play to set up something else later in the game. Like they just haven't. And Harson honestly has it. He actually is a good play caller. Yeah. We can say what we want to about the results for how we executed in the game, in the bowl game against Houston. The play calling wasn't the problem. There were plays we had opportunities to win that Houston game had we executed better.
That's true.
Harson is a better play caller than Eric Kiesau is right now. Eric Kiesau's only called plays one other time in his entire life, I think. But he just there's an art form to it, man. And I just think that Harson needs to be like, listen, we're buddies and everything, but you help me put the game plan together. I'm going to go call the plays on Saturdays. I just think that we're at that place right now, and letting him call the plays early in the season to see if he could do it right against the weaker opponents, I thought was I don't think we're in that place anymore.
Yeah.
Harson needs to take the clipboard back.
Yeah. I just don't know that you're looking at this and thinking that it's close or, that it's an execution thing or.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't bang your head against this wall anymore. You have to understand we need to do something fundamentally different with how we're deploying our resources.
Right. And you're fortunate to be 3-1 through that stretch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This team has played 4 games and won 3 of them. Just rip it up before it gets. I mean, I don't know that anything would have been more embarrassing this year. The only thing that would have been more embarrassing this year, well, that's the most embarrassing thing that could have happened in the SEC this year, is losing to Missouri in the SEC. Your other 3 non-conferences obviously would have hurt a lot more, but man, come on, dude. I supported this coaching staff, and I support their growth as well too. It just kills me to see the players take the brunt of this. Like, listen, I get that the line is bad,
right?
I do.
But you have what you have.
But you have what you have at this point, and you have to scheme around that. And I won't subscribe to the idea that there's not a version of a game plan that won't cover them enough that we can win games in this league.
Because we've seen it.
Yeah,
we've seen it with other teams in the past.
Yeah, Texas A&M lose to Appalachian State, and all these Power 5 teams losing to teams that should have significantly less talent than them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's just one of those things. They just they've got to do it. There's some things that, again, this staff is the staff right now. And there's some other things internally that I'm just not ready to talk about. But, there is definitely something that needs to be fixed internally. And sometimes, again, I thought last week would be the thing that did it, that would cause them to relook at all the things Ike just said. And, I'm ready to see it, man. The season is not, like it or not, a lot of people are projecting what they think the season is going to be. But at the end of the day, you're still 3-1, so there's still time You're still 1-0 in the SEC, so there's still time to course correct. There's still time to course correct, man. There is.
Yeah, and so I'll say this. There's been, and I saw somebody in the chat just say this, and this is why it brought it to my mind about questioning how invested Brian Harson is in the success of this team. And there were points during the game yesterday where I was like, are they phoning this in right now? Like, do they even care that we're struggling? But then I saw him elated after the game that they got that win and smiling and hugging players. And I saw his I heard you, if you've never been in, which most people just don't have the privilege to do that. If you've never been in the media room after a game, you can literally hear the locker room. Like it's just on the other side of the wall. And you can hear what it sounds like in there when they're making a bunch of noise. I noticed the stark difference between the silence that there was at the Penn State game and the boisterous noise that happened. These players and coaches want to win football games. And so we need to release our preconceived. Like, I know people want to see Harson be fiery on the sidelines and this, and it's like, he doesn't trust me. When I say, I don't know that you can fake real emotion in that way. So like him embracing Robbie Ashford after the game for an extended period of time, and Robbie being just happy to get his first start and win as a college quarterback since he was in high school. These kids want to win, man. These kids want to win. These coaches want to win. Now, whether or not they can do the plan or the things necessary to put us in a better position, that's a different question. But we got to stop questioning people's heart or questioning people's intent or their intensity when you don't have all the information necessary to make that assessment. And so I hope that we can drop that narrative at least by viewing the totality of the picture. They want to win football games and they haven't put it together yet. Like there's no doubt that it needs to get better and get better quickly if we have a prayer to, even be bowl eligible this year. But it's not because people have quit on the game or on the team.
Well said. Well said. Guys, listen, you are watching the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Athletic Architects. Guys, share this video, whether you're watching live or on replay. Use the hashtag, help people to find this content. Also, while you're watching, smash the like button and subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. Let's take a time to pause and acknowledge the sponsors of the War Rapport.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Major shout out and props to all of the sponsors of the War Report, and shout out to all of you who continue to support the War Report in whatever way you do, whether it's for free and you're just subscribing to the War Report, or you've decided to step up to patron level. Patron level gets you all of the goodies. That includes things like watch the film, which, yes, we are still going to watch the film tomorrow. I know it's going to be painful. I know it's going to look like a bunch of chaos, but we are still going to do it tomorrow, and you need to be a patron to be able to check out that content. So we appreciate everybody who stepped up to patron level. $5.99 is what gets you there. So make sure you go ahead and get on that train. If you are a member and you want someone else to be able to take advantage of this, you can't just click it and give it to someone specifically. YouTube is going to determine who are the people who interact with this content the most, who may eventually continue to do this. So you can go and purchase memberships in packs of like 1 at a time, 5 at a time, 10 at a time. You can gift memberships to people right there from YouTube. You have to be on a desktop computer there in the live chat to do that. But if you want to do that, you can, and you can purchase essentially their first month of membership, and YouTube will assign it to them. We're giving away stuff to everybody who's here in the chat. Well, not everybody. So one particular person here in the chat, but everyone who is in the chat has the opportunity to get in on this giveaway. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you're in the restaurant business, you make sure you holler at our folks at GWT2 Energy Consulting Services for all of those needs, and they'll get you right. So shout out to Walt Taylor, man. Walt has been a long-time supporter of the War Rapport. Before the vast majority of you people even knew what a War Rapport was, Walt Taylor's been down with us, man. So we appreciate all the things that he does for us. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services will be doing that giveaway here in about 25 minutes. You have to be present to win. Yeah.
Speaking of gifting memberships, Matt Nunnally says, I got gifted a membership yesterday.
Hey.
Appreciate that, Ike. I know you definitely gifted some memberships.
Excited
to check out the perks of being a member of the War Rapport has to offer. Hashtag get your weight up. Hey, we got a lot of content out there, man. So definitely head out there and check that out. You have well over a year's worth of content. So definitely go check that out, man. You will definitely be happy that you did. Thicker kicker. I like what you did there. I like what you did there. Shout out to RG3 for is it RG3 to say he was the thicker kicker?
I think so.
It sounds about like something RG3 would say, so I'm gonna say
Yeah, he was full of puns yesterday.
He asked, what has happened to Colby Wooden this year? Is it a product of scheme? What's going on with him? Thoughts?
So there's a combination of things. To Mike's point, everybody's got film on you right now, and they know Colby Wooden's a game wrecker. So we're going to run it away from him. We're going to double team him. We're going to make sure we do things to try to take him out of the game plan. And then I do think a portion of it is, despite, again, what I do know about this coaching staff, they don't like disclosing injuries. Colby's actually hurt right now. He's been playing with an elbow brace for a while, and he had a thing with like an ankle. So he hasn't been Colby Wooden 100%. That's not making an excuse for him, but there are some things that he's dealing with. But a lot of it is just they don't want to deal with him. So they're trying to do things to take him out of the game plan. And I think what I would love to see Colby do is understand how they're trying to take him out of the game and figure out what his counterpunch is going to be to that stuff. So, that's a part of coaching as well, is understanding how they're trying to take your guys out of the game plan and how do we do something to negate their ability to do that. So hopefully we'll figure out a way to get Colby more impactful into this season as the season goes on.
Thomas Jones, appreciate the super sticker. War Eagle to you. Ed Darby asks, simply Auburn ran its script and scored. Mizzou threw an interception. Auburn continued their script, scored again. Mizzou was like, that's enough. Put 8 or 9 in the box. No more points in regulation.
That about sums it up.
Yeah, this is the point that we're making about you having to be, again, this is a pretty extensive playbook, right? Like this isn't like, it seems like we don't have a lot of plays in the playbook based upon what's being called on game day, but they install a lot of stuff going into a week, and they have this is a pro level playbook. There's a lot of stuff that they have at their disposal that they can call upon when they go into the game plan this week. I just hope that they say, all right, we're going to install some different stuff. We're not, because what they installed this week for Missouri looked a lot like the install they had last week for Penn State.
Yeah.
But it was a completely different, you were going into that game having sub packages for Robbie. Robbie's your number one now. You need to figure out what the primary stuff for him is going to be, so it looks different, because you're taking advantage of the fact that he's not just a guy who can run. He is a quarterback. Let him play quarterback.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Corey Weber, appreciate you hanging. What you got, Mike?
I was going to say that jump ball that Robbie threw to Coy on the sideline is a great. I would like to see more of that. I would like to see more. Let these, as people are complaining about our receivers, but I just think we haven't seen enough of them. These guys can go get
really
the ball.
Complaining that the receivers aren't playing well. Like, I don't know that that's fair.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not at all. Like, let these guys go get the ball a little bit more and just see what. I mean, what's the point? Do you remember late in the game? It might have been in overtime. There was a ball that Robbie threw to Deal, and it was just outside.
Oh yeah, it was overtime. Overtime.
And in my mind, I was just like, man, tight end play has been so disappointing. If that was Javarius or that was one of these receivers, do they go get that ball?
Right.
and make a play for
I
that
would have liked to
quarterback.
see Landon King be the person in that.
So
Like,
the
and so
order.
again, this goes back to. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm picking on Eric Kiesel, and I haven't even looked at the film. It sounds like I'm picking on him, but you're deciding who is in the position to be running that route. And as much as I like Luke Deal, he's not the guy that I would choose to be in that position.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Shanker, but like really nobody at the tight end position has super impressed me. So like,
I'd rather have Frazier had run that route.
yeah,
He's a bigger target. He's faster.
Yeah, it just feels like, there was somebody there that could have gone up and made a play for that ball. Right. And so, yeah, I'm with them. Now, last year we were told Coach Korn was not in charge of the receiver, like rotations, like who went in the game. And I would love to know that, again, when you're running 12 personnel, is the receiver coach or who's in charge of like which tight ends go in the game? And I don't know, man. It just feels like the wrong guys are in the wrong. And then Javaris Johnson gets lost in the offense completely to the point that I was like, did he play yesterday?
Yeah,
he was on the
I
field.
saw him on the field. I noticed late in the game he was
I have
out on the
snap
field.
counts right here. Let's see. Javarius Johnson was on the field for 35 plays.
That's crazy. After midway through the third quarter, I was legitimately questioning whether he was out or hurt. So, but again, it's different to your point about Wooden. Like, it's different when you're the guy and they're game planning for you now.
Right.
You've got 3 games worth of tape on Javarius, and he's clearly the guy. So, they maybe had a plan. I watched the film. It's tough because we can't see routes down the field. But it was tough to watch, man. I don't know, man. Eric Kiesel.
But this is what I mean about when I said earlier, like, I'm not saying that 12 personnel is bad, but let's just take a 12 personnel scenario, right? Let's say we're going to keep everybody in some sort of max protect just to make sure, and let's say they're going to do a two deep safety look, right? So that they have someone to cover double team our outside receivers, right? So you've occupied 4 on the outside. That should mean play action, run fake, short tight end seam instead of running a slant with your receiver should be wide open because nobody's there to cover the middle of the field except a linebacker. And if you play action with that, it sucks the linebackers up. You throw it right over the top with the tight end. So you do have the ability in a 12 personnel to have things there. Let's say they decide they're going to do a single high safety on the top, right? That means they can only double team to one side. So you have jump balls on and one-on-one matchups on the outside on one of them. You just have to decide which of those matchups do you want to do pre-snap and then go after it. Give a guy a chance, back shoulder it, quick slant, whatever it is. You can do things to spread an offense out with just 2. If you're committed, we're going to have tight ends on the field. There's ways to do it and still make sure that you're getting the ball in the air to your playmakers. And my point is that we have to be more creative with the ways that we're utilizing the personnel. It's not just about what personnel groupings are out there. It's if I'm going to run this personnel, how do I most effectively use them? We haven't figured that out yet. We haven't.
Yeah.
Cameron Carr, appreciate the super chat. He says, I've been an Auburn fan a long time. Games like this happen. No one left on our schedule is unbeatable. Georgia excluded. They looked a little vulnerable yesterday.
Kent State.
So you never know.
Kent State definitely put points up on them.
22.
I still have hope. Maybe against LSU, we change it up.
Maybe. I think that's where you see. I think this next game is really where you see whatever like allies they have left in the fan base turn is that if you go out there and you lose this game with it looking the same as what you were doing, it's just going to be like, man, how many times can you do the same thing expecting a different result? Like, I don't know that this team turns around much unless you're going to put different guys in by game 5 of the season. They just kind of are what they are at this point. Figure it out.
Joey Kelsey, best receiver group I've seen at Auburn in a long time. If we can't get them the ball, I fear they transfer next year.
I love these guys, man. I love this group of receivers.
This is a true statement, though. Like, why would you stay at this point at Auburn unless you? Here's the stark reality: if you keep the same offensive coordinator, why would I want to play for this guy for another year? He's clearly not going to get me the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
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 I don't see a reason. I don't see a reason to want to stay if you're a wide receiver when they're clearly not trying. And if you're thinking, well, it's offensive line, we don't have a bunch of new offensive line recruits to get excited about. If you're thinking it's quarterback, maybe Holden Gardner turns into something in year 2, but you're going to have Robbie Ashford here next year. They need to prove they know how to utilize him in the pass game.
Right.
That's the reality of where you are right now, projecting forward. You've got to do something, and this week needs to be the week where you show we're ready to take that turn.
Right.
Josh Knox asks, why didn't we kick a field goal with 1:30 left in the game?
This is a great question.
This is a great question.
Listen. This would have been a very important question had the game turned out differently, and that guy doesn't fumble going into the end zone. It would have taken us back to this very point here.
How long was that field goal?
It would have ended up being like a 45, something like that.
Is faith in Carlson starting to wane?
So they asked Coach Harson this in the post game, whether or not they still have faith in Anders Carlson. He said, we still have faith in him. I don't know how much of that's accurate.
Right.
But what he did say was that he felt like, we had been up until that point. I think we had gotten all of our fourth downs.
With 3 for 3.
So so he was confident we could go get another 4th and short. What I hate, again, I'm sorry, Eric Kiesau, if you watch this, you're going to hate me, bro. I hate the play call.
Yeah.
I hate the play call in that scenario. I don't hate them going for it. I actually think going for it was the correct decision.
The announcer was all over this too. You don't give the defense time to beat your O-line by handing it off to Tank, who's 5 yards.
Was it 4th and inches?
It was 4th and inches. Yes.
Yeah.
When you can just go QB sneak it.
QB sneak, RPO, something that lets the defense have to take a half a step more or half a second longer to figure out what's going on. You either go quickly or you make them react a little bit less quickly, but you don't just line it up as if it's a goal line situation, turn around and hand it to Tank on a deep set. I thought that was an awful play call for that scenario. Whether it had worked earlier in the game, that's even more reason to not do the exact same play. It's just you can't keep going back to the well when you've seen your offensive line is getting abused in the middle. You can't do that.
Yeah,
that was just not a good play call at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust this line in that situation necessarily. So there were a lot of things that, I mean, the scenario would have been 17-14, right? If they had kicked the field goal there with a chance to stop Missouri from scoring a field goal. They obviously didn't score when they got the ball back, right? Or the game would have been over, but they almost did because they got all the way down there. So, I mean, they should have been kicking a field goal to tie,
correct?
Essentially, or it would have been, or he would have still shanked, and you win in regulation, pretty much. Yeah. So
that was my whole thing was
keep in mind
to be on the clock.
Sorry to cut you off, Ike. I mean, Missouri decided not to punch the ball in. You remember they were inside the 10, and tried to run the clock out. They kicked the field goal.
There's literally no reason.
Now that I think about it, they probably still could have won. They were driving.
If they had tried to score a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, so here's the danger of them trying to score a touchdown. You get what you get in overtime, which is you're reaching to try to do something and something stupid happens.
Oh, yeah. Pick in the end zone. Yeah.
That was the right decision by Drinkwitz. Drain the clock out. We're going to get out of here on a chip shot field goal. There's literally no issue with the decision either coach made about 4th and 1, go for it or kick a field goal, or inside the 10-yard line, just kill the clock and get out of here on a chip shot. Both of those decisions, to me, if I were the coach, I'd have made both of those decisions. I'm not mad at either one of them. Hate the play call. I feel terrible for the kicker.
It was such a terrible foreshadowing for that guy because they kept saying on the broadcast, this guy doesn't warm up. He doesn't take warm-up kicks. He just goes out there and
Well, I mean, apparently he hasn't missed an extra point in like 90 something tries.
Listen, when the game's on the line, right, and you know what I mean, and things start to tighten up, muscles get loose, get tight, the pressure, the tension, man, is something different for kickers. And I mean, we saw Carlson almost blow it, but got gifted another kick,
Right?
And it was, I mean, it's really tough. Twice, right? Like it's tough. So it seems like I was shy. I knew he was going to miss it because they kept harping on the fact that he doesn't warm up, and I was like, "This sets up perfect. This sets up perfect for him to miss it." And that thing went, and I was like, "Yep, that's about what I expected."
Yeah.
You think he'll start warming up now?
I mean,
does this game change his whole life?
But I'm just saying, like 93 in a row from that range, bro. Like, I don't know that I would take this as a reason to change my life up. But like,
yeah,
he missed it bad though.
He's somewhere warming up right now,
warming up some cookies.
I guarantee you, between him and the dude, the Texas A&M kicker, both of them are. I mean, excuse me, the Arkansas kicker. Between those two guys. Between them two guys, they probably are out somewhere right now kicking field goals because they feel so terrible about what happened. And I need to add Anders Carlson to that list because he missed 3 field goals in the game. He just got two re-kicks on him.
Man,
Arkansas could have put him in the dirt, man. They blew it.
What a gift! What a gift!
We'll
get
to that game in a minute.
Cleveland Brown. It's still wild that Mizzou fumbled Harson's pink. Wow.
Like I was in. Like, I mean, the concentration in certain moments that it takes where, like, again, a player just, there is a lot, like, I'm not letting the guy off the hook for fumbling the ball, but I mean, football is such a physical game and you're trying to concentrate on details while you're exerting max physical energy.
Yeah.
Right.
And you reach out for that thing and, you know, if you see the hands on some of these guys that can palm these footballs, like, I mean, it's more than just like running fast and jumping high and being strong. Like some of them just have physical things that allow them to do things other players can't do. Where you see a basketball player palm a basketball, not every player can palm one. And you reach out there like that, and he just didn't have that extra little bit of grip while trying to reach at full speed for it, and he dropped it. And it definitely happens. So like,
I feel awful for that kid.
Yeah, man. Like, wow.
I was joking with our guy Auburn Memes. He and I were talking after the game. I was joking with him about the only person in the world who knows how that kid feels is Ben Obomanu.
Is that the same though?
Dropping a wide open touchdown for the game and fumbling a ball away in the end zone for the game. It's like pretty close.
You had it. That was the game.
It's pretty close.
That's pretty similar.
I don't know, man. It was very Deshaun Jackson-esque to me.
No, Deshaun Jackson threw it on purpose, and it wasn't for the game. The game is over with if you don't fumble. The game is over with if you secure this catch. You were wide open in both scenarios.
Now,
it's done.
But the game wouldn't have been over on Ben's touchdown. They still would have gotten the ball back.
It's
right.
Over.
It was going to be over if he had caught it.
The game did end though, and we lost. So
yeah, this is tough. I feel bad for that I feel bad for that kid.
And he had a good game. That's I think the most dejected. Like what people remember is that play and not how well he played the rest of that game.
For sure. Rick, appreciate you, man. He says going forward on 4th and down was about eating time, and that goes back to your point, Ike. You didn't have a problem with the decision to go for it. It was just what we chose to run.
Yeah, I don't have a problem because I think you should have drained more clock to make it where even if you end up kicking a field goal, hopefully it's a shorter field goal kick, right? Like I like the decision to go for it. I hate the play call.
Imani Smoot, my man. War Eagle, everybody. Brian Harson starting to make my head hurt. Robbie is a shotgun read option QB with tempo with 3 or 4 wide out.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's literally all I'm saying. That seems like that is the most effective version of this offense with him at quarterback. And no shot to any of the other dudes, but like after Holden got in, it was, I don't know if there is and this is not an indictment on TJ. Like, I don't know that he can be successful behind this O-line the way they're calling plays.
Who you're saying, Holden or TJ?
TJ, both either.
I think TJ is done.
I think TJ's
decently.
doing okay.
Yeah,
I think,
I don't think he's done
TJ just can't turn the ball over.
I was about to say
Like,
that.
that's a big problem.
TJ's problem is turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the Power 5 opponents, I'm not sure I agree. Like, but between Penn State and Missouri, the way that people are going to play us moving forward, if they're going to call plays like this, it's only going to get worse as the season goes on. And
no, I still think play calling sucks. Yeah,
the line seems
no one
to
can
be
succeed
progressively getting worse.
Yeah,
I don't think the line is getting progressively worse. I think people are selling out more on us as the season goes on. Like they're just like we thought they were selling out against us with Bo Nix as quarterback. No, it's way different now. Like they are committed to say you cannot throw the ball. You just can't.
With less communication, though, like this line is worse.
For sure. I mean, no, they're worse than last year.
Sure.
Yeah, this line's easily worse than last year's.
I give you that. Yeah.
Easily worse.
So it's compounded.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to the giveaway, guys, Todd Jordan asked, how long did it take Bruce Pearl to make a good team? It wasn't a year and a half, which seems to be what we are expecting.
Yeah, I think people's expectations, unfortunately for Brian Harson, are clouded by the success we're seeing with Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Right, he inherited a dumpster fire of a team, and they're looking good in year 2 under him. They looked good in their first year, so they're making comparative analysis in those ways about what we should be able to do in a single season and what he was able to do in a single season. So you see that, and Florida doesn't look awful in year 1 of their new head coach. So it's a comparative analysis that people are making about what we have and how we're able to utilize them. The thing that I will say is completely different in both of those scenarios is the offensive line. Josh Heupel and the Florida offensive line and the Tennessee offensive line are both better than Auburn's offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's an important point to make, because what we are missing in all of this is that Tennessee, while Jeremy Pruitt may have been a terrible head coach, and honestly, there's probably some similarities between his do it my way, do my system thing and what we're seeing right now. But they had recruited very well, sponsored by McDonald's and other venues, I'm sure. They got all the talent in. They were recruiting top 10. We have had I don't want to say unprecedented. The recruiting at offensive line was not just not the best. It was not good. People who we had recruited transferred out quickly. We recruited a couple of O-linemen from like out west, like Arizona and Colorado, and they left. We were not good at offensive line. Florida had talent at offensive line. They were being mismanaged talent-wise, both by Pruitt at Tennessee and Mullen at Florida. We were down talent on the most critical position group necessary for an offense. That is the major difference between our programs. So as long as Josh Heupel could make a good quarterback pickup, which he didn't, Hendon Hooker in the transfer portal.
And let's be clear, he picked the wrong horse initially.
He did.
He picked Joe Milton, who
thought Joe Milton was going to be good for some reason. So again, and this goes back to what Mike says a lot. Making the decision about quarterback is not an exact science, man. Like it's hard to decide who's going to be the best quarterback. Joe Milton was terrible those first couple of games at Tennessee.
Hey, he get hurt? Did he get hurt?
No,
Is that
they
why
just benched him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably doing
no,
well.
He didn't get hurt. He got hurt in either game 2 or 3.
But then they came back and they put him back in the starting lineup. And then they were just like, nah.
Okay.
But after how the offense moved with what's his face, they were like, okay, it's enough of that.
Yeah, Hooker. But I'm saying, like Joe Milton came back and they tried starting him again, and they were just like, yeah, no, this other dude's just better. We just gonna go with the other one.
Yeah, so like it makes me wonder, right? If JT Daniels doesn't get hurt last year, does Kirby Smart stick with Stetson Bennett?
Or does he stick with
JT Daniels long enough for them to not win a national title?
He
right?
Probably sticks with JT Daniels.
Yeah, so they kind of lucked into it, and I don't know, man. I just don't know that it happens. You're going to make bad decisions. It's hard to project talent. Sometimes a guy is obviously the best guy, and other times he's a practice warrior, and it just doesn't translate to games. And you get paid $5 million to know the difference between the two.
Yeah.
or if you get it wrong, you trade out of that quickly and get into the thing that's going to work. So I really we get a question at the presser. My question is going to be about O-line and listen, man, you're talking about competition. Are you going to do something different?
I asked him in
there?
The post game about offensive line, and he was pretty blunt in saying they haven't played well, and we've got to figure some things out. But the question is, now that he's watched the film, to your point, Mike, what does that mean? Something different?
Yeah. Is there some young guy on the bench that you can get into the game that maybe doesn't have the experience, but will just man up and play more physical and move a guy off the ball? Is that guy on? If he's not, he's not. But I just don't know how you can continue this for these quarterbacks' sake. And then you know what happens too when you struggle like this, you get the players trying to do that little extra that they shouldn't need to have to do, and then they get hurt. You get your quarterback running down the field trying to throw a block, trying to spring a guy because he feels like he has to.
Right.
If I don't do this, if I don't give the little bit of extra, we may not score, we may not do well. And
I think Robbie got juiced up off of that first time he did it. He was like, "Oh, I got a chance to go do it again." It's like, bro, you're the starting QB right now. That we don't need that.
Protect your body, man. Protect your body. He wasn't going to score on that play.
Yeah.
Right. Protect your body and watch yourself, young man, because when I'm based on what Missouri did, I was like, and then when I saw Holden, I was like, oh, this guy, Robbie's critical.
For sure.
He wasn't ready.
Yeah,
Holden Garrett was not.
And but that's why I didn't want to see a two QB system or whatever they was doing. That's why I was like, I don't know if this kid.
Well, so here's a question to that point, Caesar. Let's say TJ comes back and they proclaim him as the starter. Do they need to get rid of the 2 QB system altogether because you don't want to risk hurting both of them in the same game?
Here's I guess what I said yesterday while you wasn't here. I wasn't mad at the 2 QB system if that's what you're doing. I just didn't like how they utilized it. Again, it goes back to play calling.
Say, we're beating this same drum.
Yeah, it goes right back to that because in the red zone, we saw Florida utilize it beautifully when they had Tim Tebow. Yeah. But Leak had an opportunity to get into a flow when he was between the 20s.
Right.
And that's not what we're giving TJ. And that's just not fair to either QB in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my whole thing is because of the inflexibility in play calling, you have to call. I think now that we're into SEC play, you have to call this different for TJ to protect him. But long developing reads is not it. You can do that, but you have to figure out a way to get the ball out of his hands faster. Give him more options. Tight ends coming out of a 3-point standoff off the line isn't it. That's why I'm harping on the 12 personnel thing. It feels like those plays develop just a half second more slowly than he needs to get the ball out of his hands fast and find somebody rather than a receiver bursting off the line and hitting them on a slant or literally anything else. So if TJ gets back in there, I'm scared for him the way they're calling plays. I am. And even for Robbie, I'm scared for him too. Like he looks flat exhausted at points during the game, just running away from people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We need to get Robbie a Red Bull sponsorship or something. Because he needs some extra juice to get through this the way they're doing it. He only threw 18 passes, but they actually called more than that for him.
Right. Yeah, that's a fact.
Sure.
They just turned into runs because he was running.
Yeah, and some of those 18 passes were him throwing the ball away, essentially.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, he didn't have a bad day throwing the ball.
No, he actually, I mean, as far as like completion percentage, he actually was pretty good. Now, there was a couple of lucky ones in there, but other than the tipped pass in overtime, I didn't feel like he put the ball at risk. So he had a decent game and it's like people are saying the coach's confidence in his ability to throw the ball versus his ability to throw the ball are actually two different things.
Right.
And I wouldn't point to a lack of throwing the ball as them not being confident in Robbie. as much as it is, I don't think that they're confident in what this offensive line can do to protect long enough for us to throw the ball. But again, the problem for me is it's because you've decided you're going to run stuff that requires them to protect for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
If you're not going to run that stuff, it doesn't matter. Make the defense think. You haven't done anything to make them think. They're able to play fast and just come after you because you haven't done much of anything to make them think. And I just don't know. I think I saw Todd say this. The plays that we need, it's not they have to create a new playbook. They're in the playbook that exists. You just got to install them for the game and call them in the game. That's it. You don't have to reinvent anything.
We saw RPO last year.
Again, they exist in this playbook. They're there. You just need to install them for the game, then call them during the game. That's it. Throw away this other crap that you've been running.
Yeah. Do we know what Tate Johnson's injury was?
It's a shoulder thing. I actually, in my offensive line question to Harson, the post game presser, I asked him about Tate Johnson as well. They said they haven't done a full evaluation, so we'll probably know more by Monday where he is. But it was a shoulder injury.
Coach Anderson, appreciate the super chat. I hope the athletes continue to fight. No, it hasn't been perfect, and it's not going to be. They must stay together because the noise is only going to grow. Definitely hope that they stay unified. Keep pushing. What you got, Ike?
I mean, this is another thing that I've seen people upset at Coach Harson about. He made a statement about one of the biggest issues he's having is just keeping the players focused on their stuff and not the things the media and the fans are saying. And people were like, "Oh, he's blaming the fans for the problems that the team is having." It's like, that's not
that's not what he said.
That's not what he's saying in that instance. He's saying these are young men that are on social media, just like you all.
The TJ retweets are a perfect example of that.
Right. They're walking around campus. They hear this stuff too, and it gets in their ears. This is the same thing that people praise Nick Saban for saying about rat poison. But now if Coach Harson says it, he's blaming the fan. It's like, y'all gotta chill, bro. Y'all gotta when
you're winning, everything hits.
Right.
Like, y'all gotta chill, man. Like, you looking for reasons to be mad.
And again, by losing, we're talking 3-1.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you something. When you approach a pretty girl and she is already attracted to you, everything you say is smooth.
Yeah.
Right. If she has decided she is not, you were a creep before you walked up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's 100%. A perfect analogy to the Brian Harson era so far.
Yeah, you can't.
They're treating him like he's a creep.
Stay out my DMs unless I'm already attracted.
Yeah, unless I already like you. Like, oh, he's handsome, girl. He told me he was gonna slap me in the face and push me down. but if unattractive dude says that, then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, lock him up. He's a jerk. He's a creep. Yeah, like I mean, they're treating Harson like he's a creep, man. You're right. You're looking for something there. I don't.
Especially with the noise about how his demeanor with the players or his relationship, how affable he is. I thought that was nonsense because I watched Nick Saban be a very harsh and coarse head coach for really the first 7-8 years. He started to ease up in his later years, and he's been a little more approachable. And you hear the stories about the D's nuts jokes. Nick Saban was, by all accounts, a tyrant and working the players so hard, and that's why they had a lot of injuries, if you want to believe any of that stuff. But he won. It doesn't matter when you win. Wasn't he barking at Maria Taylor on the field after they won a game to open the season, after they won the championship? Where are you going to go with Tua or Jalen? I'm not going to answer, so quit asking. Everybody's like, oh, that's funny. He apologized later, but it was a big nothing. You know why? Because he won championships. Yeah. So we're not really grading the behaviors and the points of what the coach has done or how he answers questions. We're grading how the fan base feels about the coach and the fact that he hasn't won. That's it. That's it in its entirety. I wish we could be more objective about what's a problem and what's not. The only problem so far with Harson, he's not winning. Well, he's not winning pretty, and he's not winning big games anymore. So that's what's going on.
I asked Saban if he missed Gus at media days, and he didn't bite my head off. But there was a time where he might have responded very differently to that question. It turned into a pretty lighthearted moment. But, ultimately, it's just we're not just the biases let people take things a little bit too far. And, he's getting a lot of heat for how he's handling like pressers and stuff right now. But ultimately, everything just sounds worse because everybody thinks it's worse. I would just caution if for some reason, this complete sunshine pump, they do turn it around. I wonder if those people will be able to let go of that he gone bias. Or are they going to keep that same energy, if they go into November 6-2 with a chance to do it again? Right?
I'm gonna absolutely say no, because they're going to assume, and this is not even a poor assumption. So let me not say that they're wrong for this. That was a fluke, and what we saw before that is actually the real person, and so. People assume he's gone regardless of what happens the remainder of this season. So he could literally win every game from now into the remainder of the season and contend for a national championship. They'll swear that just means that he's going to go somewhere else as now a national title contending head coach. I don't know if there's any truth to it, because how can I predict what that man is going to do with his life? I don't know.
Yeah. Guys, it's time to give away a T-shirt.
Nope.
Lobtown.
Nope, we're doing a mug today.
Doing a mug?
Yeah.
Nope. Oh, it's up here.
Yeah.
Let me move.
You can tell how we feel about the season by what's going on. Every time we lose, it's basketball gear. That's what's going to be.
We didn't lose though. We won.
I know. I'm saying that's why last week it was Lobtown.
Yeah. But we're doing the mug today. My bad.
All right. Hashtag get your weight up. It's time to do the drawing. Ike has it pulled up here. Let's go, Ike.
99 people have entered to win. Only one person is going to be able to get the mug. Who shall it be today? Athletic Architects is the sponsor of the show. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services is giving a mug to WMPGA. You got to be here, though, in order to win. So let us know if you are still here. If you're not, we'll redraw. We'll do what we do.
Get some super chats, guys. While some of you guys look to see if WMPGA is here. Percy and Williams says, I have never watched an Auburn defensive line that was not looking to light someone's behind up.
I mean, I think our defensive line is looking to light people up. I think our issue on defense is more the second level than it is the first level. After looking back at the film, the second level is who has been out of position way more often, and that's what has allowed our edge to not be secured the way that it needs to be. That's what's allowed some of these gap issues that we're having, is that second level we're just not playing well right now, or not consistently playing well. So
under that, and under the type of defense that Schmedding wants to use, those guys are trying to take up space so that the linebackers can clean up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're not doing that, then yes, everyone looks bad when that's not happening. Tori Dickerson, appreciate you, man. Good afternoon, fellas. Finally live with you. My biggest issue, it seems like Coach is locked in on his system opposed to adjusting to his personnel.
That's going to be the storyline. Yeah.
I expect a heavy dosage of questions regarding that Monday. Like maybe I just need to tweet at all of the people who I know are typically there and be like, we're going to get an answer to this. You ask them about offensive line, you ask them about linebacker, you ask them about cornerback, but we're going to ask this same question over and over again until somebody gives us an answer.
Mm-hmm.
WMPGA say, yeah, cool. I'm in here. Congratulations.
Forget about it, cuz.
Email us business@the Rapport. We need your physical address, where to send that to. Congratulations to you, good sir. Let's get back to some of these comments. Nicholas Frazier says, man, I wish we had Junior Rosegreen, Carlos Dansby, Stanley McGlover, Carlos Rogers, and Will Herring type players on the defense right now. Those defenses were legendary.
Yeah, man.
It'd be nice to have all of the classic guys play again. If we're going after it, like, let's just go get all the good, and let's get King Dunlap and those boys back on offense.
Yeah, people forget that Stanley and Carlos did not play on that 014. They were gone.
Yeah.
They were gone.
Stanley was there.
Was Stanley there?
McCullough was later.
Carlos
was
Carlos
yeah.
was gone.
Carlos was
yeah,
definitely
Dansby was
gone.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dansby was gone. So
because
he was.
McGlover was in on blitzing situations.
Yeah, it's hard not to think of Carlos with that 04 team because he was so good. But yeah, he went pro after 03.
Yeah. Will Cleon says, is there another DB that can replace Simpson because he has been torched the last 2 games?
Yeah, listen.
Okay, so what plays are we talking about? He got torched versus
There was one,
The big one that got them down in the red zone where we almost lost.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't
When
I
their
mean, that's
five
not
finally
him
got
being
off.
torched though.
He
That's
wasn't
a
torched.
really that was an underthrown pass that a dude made falling down. He was right there with him.
It just seems like every time somebody's catching the ball, he's there. Like,
Yeah.
Every time I
it's
catch
been
the ball.
Pritchett at points in time. I mean, again, I when we say he's been torched, like, what are we talking about? The frequency on the torching? Like, can we give me more what you mean? Like, I remember a big play happening and he was there, but like, how often does that happen? Because every DB gets the ball caught on them. There's nobody who has no balls thrown in their direction. Nobody ever catches the ball on them. It just doesn't happen.
yeah, I don't know, man. I haven't been overly impressed with Simpson so far this season.
I mean,
I think they got the right guys there.
If we're going to say who I think is the better cornerback or playing better, again, I've already said Keontae Scott and DJ James.
Yeah. And they're on the field. So
yeah.
Coach Anderson says, what if Harson doesn't know how to?
That's good. Again, that's going to be the question.
We're going to stay tuned, Coach.
Yeah, we're going to find out.
Yeah, all right.
Stay tuned.
I hope he is. I hope he can, and I hope that it's not one of those things where we're just going to do it my way and it's going to work or it's not. Like, man, eat your ego on this one, and just go back to the drawing board and try to figure something out.
Rich Mathis says, what games do you see us winning moving forward?
Western Kentucky, baby.
You know what?
Western Kentucky's actually a good team this year.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That quarterback they had last year that was dynamite is gone though. So
and they got a new dude from D2. The last quarterback came up from FCS and he was slinging it. This QB transferred from FCS and slinging it. He's got like 1,400 yards so far this year. It's outrageous. So I guess that's when you scheme.
My Lord.
Scheme. Find the right guy for your scheme. Let it go.
I
was gonna say I see us. Okay. Texas A&M is not that good.
Arkansas is beatable.
Arkansas is
There's
beatable.
nobody
Texas
on our
A&M
schedule that's not beatable. The question is, can this team beat them? Like that's
the
bigger issue is not whether or not, and this is going to get into our next discussion. But yes, there are beatable teams on our schedule. Can we beat them based upon how we're playing right now? If you're asking me the team that I saw play against these first 4 opponents, can they beat any of the teams left on our schedule? The answer to that question today is no.
No, hell no.
Okay,
but
so
the
how about
problem with this team is not the talent. It's not like we need to exchange players. Son's offensive line. I don't know that we have the talent on the offensive line. It's that we need to figure out how to put our playmakers in a better position to have a better impact on the game. So that's going to come down to the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And the personnel could change up. We saw that they are more able to run what they want to run with this offense so far when TJ Finley is in the game. And he might not be out. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but when we play Arkansas, so what I saw against Arkansas is their pass defense is definitely susceptible. They played better last night, but Texas A&M was doing more running against Arkansas than they did against Appalachian State. They're susceptible to the things that we are bad at, which is a great balance for us because our defensive line can create enough pressure to make things hard for KJ Jefferson. And our defensive backfield is not bad. I think they are good. They were down Donovan Kaufman yesterday, which is important because he is a baller. That's why Caden Bridges was out there, who also had a decent game. But that was a big miss. We're going to be healthier as the season goes forward. And I think we got a chance to sneak at least 2 SEC games. You're saying, yes, based on what I saw yesterday, is it discouraging? Sure. I don't think we see that same team for the rest of the season, and I don't see so impressive play from everybody on our schedule that I don't think we can't win at least 2 more SEC games.
Okay. Nicholas Frazier says it seems like Simpson is in the right position, but he's not turning his head and playing the ball while it's in the air.
I don't know. This is a better question for Ike.
Yeah, I can. You know what? I'll go do. I can go snatch film on every rep that I found for Simpson, and we can just put it on the film and see. So that's easy enough. We can go look.
Chase, appreciate you, man. Can you guys talk about the lack of second half adjustments in Power 5 games? The last 6 Power 5 games, we can't score more than 6 points in the second half.
No, we can't talk about that. I don't want to, Chase.
I don't want to talk about it.
No, just
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is a factual thing. We have done so in Power 5 game. I don't know that I agree that we made no adjustments in Power 5 games. I just think that what we haven't done effectively is understand, like, so you go into a game plan, right? You go into a game with a game plan and it works for the first quarter, first half, whatever. You go into the half and you're confident because your game plan is actually working. And so you say to yourself, we just need to keep doing what we're doing. When we talk about adjustments in the second half, they go into the halftime and they're like, this is how we're going to stop the things that they're doing well. And we don't have, and this is something that Mike has said before, we don't have a counter to their counter. We haven't done a counter to their counter. What we've done is decided we're doing well, keep doing what's working, which that's not like, who doesn't think that? Who doesn't think we're doing what we should be doing? Let's keep doing it. It's working. Most people think keep doing what's made you successful. It will continue to work. The problem is once you see it stop working, how do you adjust off of that? And that's where we've been poor. Right.
Yep. So let me ask you this along those lines. How much of it is that we have such a glaring weakness on our offense that no matter what you want to change, if a defense knows I just have to attack that offensive line in this way, that it pretty much neutralizes anything else you could try? Is that possible? That, yeah, okay, maybe they're soft at one position. Maybe one tackle is susceptible. But when you got deficiencies at right tackle and center and one of the guard spots, now it's a different story. Now the entirety of the line is a weakness. Does that make it hard to even counterpunch?
It makes it hard. But again, this is where I think the issue for this year specifically, not answering Chase's question about a pattern of adjustments over a period of time, is that I don't know that we necessarily started with the right plan of attack, specifically this week when we're talking about who the quarterback was. Right. And so, or understanding what our offensive line is this year and how I think after game 2, we should have realized, you know what? This offensive line isn't. But again, I'm going to go back to something Mike said earlier. You had enough success early against Penn State that was fool's gold to make you think, oh, okay, well, we actually can move the ball a little bit. Maybe our offensive line isn't so bad. And then second half Penn State and all day Missouri, they let you realize your offensive line isn't bad, but we're going to pressure test them. We're just going to throw more at them than they're able to handle. Right. You have to realize people are just going to keep doing this until you decide we have an effective plan to get around those deficiencies. And they've just figured out what our deficiencies are, and they are attacking it like crazy.
As they should. As they should. All right, guys, that brings us into the biggest question of this segment, which is,
what did we see?
Question we want to ask to all of us, since we're not doing individual what did we see.
Oh man.
No, so you can get it. You can get into yours with
I'm
this
gonna get to
question
mine
for sure.
No, yeah, everyone has a chance to say what's on their mind in closing. The question is, gentlemen, we're 4 games into the season. We know there's some good teams in this conference, but as a whole, how good is the SEC?
This feels like a down year to me, personally. This feels like a down year. It feels like a bunch of teams that are mediocre living on the legend of the SEC being the toughest conference, which I still think it is. But, man, like, come on, dude. What did Texas A&M start at? 6?
Yeah.
They started at 6. They're definitely not the 6th team in the country. Tennessee. Florida's a little better, I think, than people thought they were going to be. Anthony Richardson.
I think Kentucky's ranked a little high, but
yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. This feels off to me. Arkansas doesn't really feel that great, but as bad as we thought Texas A&M was, they went out there and they beat Arkansas. And, the league is still competitive. And I think that it's because the level of athlete in the league has not diminished, but the teams feel that it's part of what makes our season a little bit more disappointing. Like, man, if there was any season where you could have just surprised everybody if you had your shit together, it was this season. And what a season to possibly be your worst. I don't want to project what they're going to do, but like, what a bad season to not be at least above average, because above average might get you to the SEC championship game this year, or at least in contention come Iron Bowl. Yeah. So it's tough, man, but I think this is definitely an off year in the SEC. It happens. You go through cycles, right?
Go ahead.
But the reemergence of like Florida, I think, as a team that, beating Utah to start the year was good, was definitely good for the conference. And I just wonder at the end of the season if we're looking at another 13 or 12 teams in bowl games. Because last year everybody made it but Vanderbilt. So it was somewhat competitive, I guess, last year. I don't know, man. It doesn't feel great to me this year outside of Georgia and Alabama. And even then, Alabama might be a tiny bit overrated. I don't know if that's a hot take, but they don't feel unbeatable to me. I mean, they've got some clear flaws.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Bryce Young is just so good, but this doesn't feel like the best year in the conference to me.
Well, I think what brings us back down to earth as well is that when you look at other schools and other conferences, they don't look all that and great and impressive either. So it almost kind of balances itself out in terms of what we look like as a conference. We've had years where it looked insane. Like the whole West Division just murders row. It looks like, again, to your point, with a good year, you should be able to win at least 8 games, even with our schedule, right?
Yeah.
It's just the fact that we have our issues glaring, and it's frustrating when you watch, especially week 1 or week 2, especially when we saw Bama struggle against Texas. We saw other schools look really mid, and then we go out and struggle against San Jose State. We're like, wait a minute, hold on. Is everyone bad? And so it makes you wonder, but I just think we've had years like this, even in recent years. It is kind of a down year based on what we've done. When we've had 2 teams in the national championship, which could still possibly happen this year. Right. But everybody else behind, I'm curious if we get 10, 11, about 11 to 12 teams in the bowl. I doubt we get 13 this year, though. I really do. I don't think Missouri gets to a bowl. Hoping we get to a bowl, but I don't know about this year.
So the question that started that made us want to do this is not, are we good? Ike and Mike were saying the SEC is down this year. So my question would be, if the SEC is down comparable to last year, who has gotten worse? Well, let's change that. Alabama and Georgia are still Alabama and Georgia. Okay.
I was about to say, yeah, Auburn's
I mean, we ended as a 6-6 team, though. So I don't like to use the ranking.
We're not looking likely to get back there at this present moment.
We're not tracking that way. But that's going to be the balance on that is going to be that Florida will probably have a slightly better record this year than they had last year. But okay, so if I say Bama and Georgia, and honestly, they still look like the 2 best teams in the country. In my opinion, they're definitely the 2 best teams in the conference. So that's 1, 2, right? However you want to order them. Who last year in the SEC looked like was next? Would you say was the 3rd best team in the conference last season?
Arkansas.
A lot of people wanted to get at the A&M
or Ole Miss.
A&M was 8-4, and they were mid.
I was about to say Ole Miss.
Ole Miss
was probably the next up in the conference. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to offer you this. Tennessee is this year's Ole Miss.
Okay.
Okay.
So far this season, I think that tracks.
Yeah, I think it would have to be Ole Miss last year because they went 6-2 in conference, and the next best team was Kentucky. At 5-3.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this year, if you're telling me that a 5-3 Kentucky team, who honestly, this year's Kentucky looks almost identical to last year's Kentucky. They can move the ball at times. They turn the ball over too much. Defense is going to be good, but they also just falter on offense against people they have no business faltering against. So if you're going to tell me that Kentucky was the next best team, so far this season, I would say Ole Miss is probably the 4th best team in the conference along those lines. Their defense has actually been playing pretty good. Their offense is coming along. Jackson Dart is running more than I thought he would. They're kind of used him like they use Matt Corral, which is a surprise. And I thought they'd be slinging it with him. But after that, last year, there's a bunch of mid, Auburn included. Now, if you want to say Arkansas had a really good season, they did, but they're kind of the same thing too. So I'm wondering where the drop off is. If you tell me you got 1-2 dynamite teams, 2 teams that look good, and the rest is just kind of a jumble, how was that any different this season?
What I will say is the teams that are bad this year are significantly worse this year. Like
South Carolina might be headed downhill from last year for sure, and they were a bowl team last year. So
we look significantly worse so far this season.
We do.
Missouri actually still looks. They were bad last year, and they look worse this year.
They are.
Yeah, they were a bowl team,
right? But I'm saying, but they look worse this season than they did last year, and I didn't think that they were good last year. So like they've gone from mid to we've gone from mid to I would say Vanderbilt is just their Vandy, so I don't even know what to do.
Vantage is
Yeah. South Carolina went from mid to like. I
don't
know
what kind of too.
No, they were kind of like they had hopes of being mid,
right? And so I just think the bottom has fallen out of the SEC, man. Where it's like, yeah, the top teams are still top, the mid teams are a little more mid, and the bottom is just disgusting.
Yeah. Mississippi State might be not significantly, but just a little bit worse than last year.
LSU doesn't look better. Like I'm just saying, like it's just I just don't know and how I would do this. And so let me say this. I think what we are actually seeing around college football is the impact of the transfer portal.
Yes.
You're seeing a lot of players in new situations, new teams trying to figure it out. So early season is looking a lot uglier than it probably would typically if you had more continuity on teams. But what you're also seeing is coaching shuffles. Like you're just seeing a lot of scenarios that put people in positions where it's not going to look pretty, and it's been bad. But what I will say is that I would have prior to this season said I'd take the SEC in a matchup against the middle of the pack teams in any conference. I don't say that confidently this year, that the SEC is better than middle of the pack teams in other conferences.
I don't know, man.
You'd have to define our middle of the pack and then lay out the other.
Yeah, who are you putting up against?
Yeah, because Florida already beat like Utah. And
do not mention the Pac-12 in a conversation about a conference to me.
All right, fair enough. I hate them too.
The only conference that I would let's take the conference 10. To me that matters, the Big Ten.
Big
Ten. Okay. If you say top to bottom, the Big Ten versus the SEC, who is a mid team in the Big Ten right now?
Based on how they've shown, because everybody's
thus far this season, because that's what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not saying what we're projecting forward, what they've shown thus far this season. Who is a middle of the pack team in the Big Ten?
So the problem is I don't watch enough Big Ten.
Indiana probably,
Purdue,
Iowa
they're
probably,
Purdue.
Purdue,
yeah. And they're honestly bad. All of them are probably bad, to be honest. Just what I've seen of them.
But who do you think that an SEC team beats Purdue?
Again, we're talking the middle of our pack.
Iowa, that's a good one.
In the middle of their pack. That's what we're talking, right?
Okay, yeah.
So give us our middle of the pack teams in the conference.
We just named them. We talked about
Kentucky.
Out of those, everybody not named Bama, Georgia, Tennessee is going to be a middle. Maybe Ole Miss.
Arkansas.
So you'll say Arkansas
is the best of our
Kentucky.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm struggling
in the middle of the pack.
Like again, we're bad, bro. Like
A&M is probably middle
teams.
of the pack. I'll probably put A&M middle of the pack. They middle of the pack. So you got Arkansas, A&M, Kentucky.
So okay, we'll take those three teams. Name three teams from the Big Ten that you consider to be decent teams that you think we win a neutral site game against them?
Well, I definitely think Kentucky beats Iowa because isn't that who they just beat in their bowl game? And ran them off the field? Was that somebody different?
I ain't talking about what happened last season. I'm talking about
I'm
this
with
year.
you, but I think Kentucky is the same team, and I actually think Iowa's worse because they lost a lot of defensive talent and they've been struggling a little bit. So
they've been fine on defense. They just can't put up no points.
They couldn't put up any points last year, but last year their defense was scoring points, and they're not doing that as much this year.
Wisconsin,
same thing. They can't score any points, but they've got a good defense.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't see too much of a difference. Would I take Kentucky on a neutral field against Wisconsin? Yeah, I would. I would take Kentucky on a neutral field. Would I take Arkansas on a neutral field against Iowa? Yeah, I would. I don't see. So to me, if the top four is just as strong,
I don't have confidence in that though. I'm saying, could they win? Sure. Do I feel confident in the dominance of the SEC? Absolutely not.
We're asking the wrong question, man. The real question here is, would Nebraska beat Vanderbilt?
Actually, right. I think yes, probably this season.
Nebraska will beat Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think Nebraska.
I think Nebraska versus no. I think they're the Big Ten's Vanderbilt is Rutgers.
You think they're worse than Nebraska?
Yeah.
Wow. I admittedly have not watched any Rutgers football.
The 3-1 Rutgers Scarlet Knights versus the 1-3 Nebraska Cornhuskers.
I think that'd be a great game. Great game.
Great in what? Like, okay, when we define great, you mean what do you mean?
Well, the score would be close. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so we just saw a close score game Saturday for Auburn.
Which means these teams were equal on level playing field.
And that's what I think that's what you would get with those two teams playing one another.
Yeah, I agree. But see, I never measure the strength of the conference by the middle down. I measure by the middle up. So if you're going to take,
I measure it by top to bottom. And like, I think if you have more teams regressing away from the mean of what you consider to be good football, you don't have a good conference. And I just don't think that the SEC has a great conference this year. We've been used to being great as a conference. This year, we're just okay.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I think that's
yeah. I don't think that it means the conference is bad.
No, I'm not saying the conference is bad.
Yeah,
I'm just saying we're worse.
That's my point.
You just can't tout it for being as great as it used to be.
Yeah, by SEC standards, it's still probably better than Big Ten, but like, you know, it's not by SEC standards.
Can we say it's better than the Big Ten though?
We don't know yet.
I don't know, man. I mean, at the top, sure. Yeah. At the top,
do you think Penn State is a top team in the Big Ten right now, or are they a middle of the pack team?
Based on what I've seen, they're probably top four.
They're probably towards the top.
Yeah.
I mean, as Auburn fans, we're certainly hoping so because they mopped us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Michigan is
I don't know
on
if they're better
equal
than
playing
Michigan.
field. Yeah, with Alabama or Georgia, I'm not sure about
our
that.
top two trumps anybody else's top two.
Yeah, I mean, the top of the SEC is always going to be the most dominant in the country. Like, I'm not arguing whether or not our best teams can beat other teams, other conferences.
But once we get to the next tier, are we still on par with
There's my question, because there's a conference. We're talking about the conference. Like, we can tout. Because if that's the case, the ACC can say, "Oh, we've had a dominant conference because Clemson has been good forever."
We might have to revisit this in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, we definitely.
For sure.
Once we get to the bye week, we're going to need to talk about this again.
Because we're 33% of the way through the season here, and like obviously there's a lot can happen. Yeah. But right now, it just feels like it's a down year, and it may pan out differently. But
again, I'm looking at losses to App State. I'm looking at struggles with Tulsa. I'm looking at, you can just go down the list of if you think Florida State's a good team, LSU struggled with them. Like
they might be better than we expected, but we don't really know. To your point, we don't really know. Then I expected them to be. I expected them to be 5-7 this year, so they're tracking better than that. So yeah, they're better than I expected.
They're not Florida State, but they're better. They're not as trash. Like the
bar was on the floor though. The bar was on the floor.
Miami, look, Miami.
They just lost, right?
Got mopped.
Middle Tennessee
by 14 points to a group of 5 team at home.
Is this one of the most chaotic?
It's crazy.
It's the most chaotic I've seen this early in the year. Usually we see chaos towards the end of the season, but to see it this early, yeah, I'm surprised.
Are we in store for one of the worst college football playoffs ever?
The top teams are still good. That's the thing.
That
like,
hadn't
when
changed.
This is actually oddly bad and a bad omen for a 12-team playoff right now because are there 12 good teams in college football right now?
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that's really tough.
For sure.
Freaking Kansas is undefeated right now. Come on.
Josh Pate will buy you a beer right now.
Yeah, y'all see the graphic on social media, like the basketball blue bloods were all undefeated at one point. I don't know if they still are, or not undefeated, but they were. Yeah. And I think North Carolina may have dropped a game, but they were just showing how good those teams were.
Man, North Carolina is they might as well just put tissue paper out there for defense, bro.
Come on, Gene. What you doing, man? You could at least coach defense.
North Carolina's defense is terrible.
Terrible.
Goodness gracious. Imani Smoot says, I think Ohio State can beat Georgia and Alabama.
I haven't watched Ohio State play. I don't know how to accurately assess that statement. I'll take your word for it.
We'll revisit.
Coach Anderson, got nothing to lose. Put your best kids out there and play to their strengths.
That's
Playing that way gives you a puncher's chance to go down swinging.
I would.
Yeah, get Camden Brown off the bench.
How many?
I want to see him in the game. The problem, again, this is my issue with 12 personnel. Right?
31 snaps for Camden Brown.
Is that you're putting
31?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're only putting 2 receivers on the field a lot of the game, and if you had to, I don't understand that. There's too much talent in that receiver room to keep these guys on the bench, where you've got like 6 guys who are good, but you're only putting 2 of them out there.
Especially if they're big guys who don't mind blocking.
Yeah, come on, man, just get these guys off the bench and in the damn game. It's not that difficult. Like. It's and that's why the scheme change, I think, to me is important, because that's the only way these guys get off the bench and in the game.
Yeah, no, I will agree with that point wholeheartedly, that the only way to maximize, like, it is the Golden State Warriors strategy on offense, which is, I know this doesn't make sense to everybody else because we're not playing a big man, but it works.
Right.
Yeah, we're not. You shouldn't be able to be a power run team with a bunch of wide receivers. Well, when one of those dudes is Landon King and another one's Camden Brown, we can be pretty physical with wide receivers on the field.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
You just have, again, you got to open your brain like a 0.5 millimeter more and see there's daylight over here, but you have to embrace the idea that it requires you to do something different than philosophically you've been used to doing, but you do have the playbook and the players to execute.
Yeah.
Right. Good talk, gentlemen. Ike, tell the people why they should become a patron right now.
Because we are going to experience pain together and watch this film tomorrow.
Oh, man.
It's not a good advocation for it. But what we are going to do is take a look at what happened on the film and see what opportunities we had that were there and maybe find some bright spots for Auburn. I have yet to rewatch this game, but I will begin the process today of rewatching Auburn play Missouri. But join me as we analyze the film a little bit more and dig into what happens. But you got to be a patron to get there. $5.99 per month is what will get you to that place. And if maybe one of your friends will gift you with it. So if you want to come in and gift someone a membership, you have the opportunity to do that right down there in the chat. You can hit that button and decide how many gifted memberships you want to do. YouTube will decide who will get those memberships. We are the Auburn Express podcast, man. We are doing a lot of this stuff replay on podcast. We've got some pod only content that we're throwing out there. So if you want to be able to hear the audio format of that, go to your podcast place and go and listen to us. Hit up our website. We are thewarrapport.com. We have articles now that we're writing. My man B Will is keeping the articles flowing on our website right now. C-Dub giving you his power rankings every week. That's in article format as well. Make sure you head over to thewarrapport.com to be able to check that content out, as well as maybe supporting us because you didn't get a chance to win something today. You can shop and purchase your own stuff right there and support the War Rapport in that way. So again, if you don't have the monthly membership that you want to do, you can support us just by going to our website, man. We need traffic to the website. So please just go read something, even if you're reading something that you already knew, and share an article. It helps us out a lot just to be able to get flow through that website, or you can purchase something from us. And we appreciate all of those ways in which you guys continue to support the War Rapport. Also, on the homepage of the website, you can look and see our sponsors there, right? So just go to that homepage. If you want to know people who sponsor the War Report, you want to know how to get in touch with them, you don't have to remember their web address and all that stuff. Just go to the homepage, scroll down, see the sponsors, click the link to get to their stuff. That includes people like GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, who sponsored our giveaway, and Athletic Architects, who is the sponsor of the show today.
Well, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Share this video, guys. Share it on social media. That's Facebook, Twitter. Use the hashtag. Help people to find us. Help us to grow. Smash the like button. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're out there on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can find us at The War Rapport. You can also find us on TikTok at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys. We have more content. Another live show this week. Check out the midweek report as we preview LSU going into week 5. That's it for now, guys. We'll definitely see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.